Chair, I think a lot has been said. What I want to raise is that there seems to be people who are responsible in ensuring that there is quality education, not just in the Northwest, but across the country. But the different stakeholders that are responsible for that want to operate in silos. And that's what we're experiencing here. That the department thinks that the SGB must function on their own, the district must function on its own, the school itself must function on its own. We know that the schools get Section 21 monies. It's not enough. And we know that. Across all the schools, this money is not enough for these schools to function. It's even worse, the school is a quintile 2. If you get to a school, they will ask you if you can give donation of toilet papers. And that's what happens. During the back to school campaign, we went to a lot of schools, particularly in Northwest MEC, where you would find schools who can't even buy themselves toilet papers. Because with the money that they have to prioritize and see what is it that they must do and what is it that they can't. What you categorize as minor maintenance is actually major maintenance in most of these schools, looking at the budgets that they get. And maybe the department must have its own emergency plan for these schools. On if a ceiling is on the verge of collapsing, what do you do as a department? Because whether or not you like it, you can say it's the responsibility of the SGB. They don't have capacity to fix a ceiling. And that's where you come in as a department, because your role is to ensure that the schools function and intervene where there's need to be. So the fact that an SGB must come here and ask for a ceiling must be very embarrassing to you as a department, DM. And this school is one of the hundreds of schools that are having to live and function under the same circumstances on a daily basis. But what we don't consider here is that neither the SGB nor the department is really affected by this. Our learners have to go to school on a daily basis under the same situation. And we are not considering that. And that is why I'm saying there must be an emergency plan, because the people who are really affected, it's our kids. Maybe not necessarily because most of your kids go to private schools, but it's kids who have to live and learn under those conditions on a daily basis. And that is why we don't think it's an emergency for a ceiling to be fixed. That's why we think the SGB has a responsibility of fixing a ceiling. So I completely agree that, and in fact, if we're to open these petitions, we are going to end up being a portfolio committee of petitions. Because a lot of these schools have the same situations. And therefore, a department can come and say, in the presentation of the MEC, I found the MEC to be very defensive. Very, very defensive. And she's my home girl. She's from Northwest, by the way. But she seems to be very defensive because everything else you pointed to the SGB. What is your responsibility in this school? And all the other schools. We've got a problem of vandalization in schools, and you know. But you say, yeah, no, there seems to be some fiddling of wires. It happens because in your budgets that you give, you don't have prioritization of security in schools. That is why schools will be vandalized. So it starts with the budget itself. Schools can't buy themselves paint. And maybe that was important that we have a parent component here, because some of the things, really, as parents, we can put hands together. And that is why it was important for us to have all the stakeholders here, because parents also have a role to play in ensuring that these schools are maintained. And maybe the department must have a program like that where it goes to schools and have a awareness or a reaching campaign, whatever you can call it. Parents must come together and we must find a way of keeping schools functional for the safety of our children. Even if we ask the department to increase the budget, it still won't be enough. It will need external stakeholders to come and assist to ensure that schools do operate. So interdepartmental collaboration is very important. Most of the schools, when you go to them, they'll tell you, no, we've got a crisis with the wall, we've got this, we've got that. When you go to the Department of Education, they'll tell you public works. It's actually the first time I hear Department of Education say, no, we're together with public works. Because in most cases, it's always the fault of public works. And if public works and Department of Education can agree on this one, I'm very worried. Very, very worried. So we are playing a shifting game here. And I wouldn't say the SGB lied to Parliament. They might have written to Parliament out of frustration, like any other SGB. But you give so much responsibility to SGB when you know they've got limited capacity. And yes, you must capacitate learners. How do you have a school at this point, as a government, DA-led GNU government, you still have thousands of schools who don't have labs. And we're very far. If we can't maintain a toilet, what of a lab? If we still have schools that don't have electricity, what of a lab that will need electricity to function? So the department really needs to have its priorities. Most of the officials in the departments, when they get to schools, they are celebrities. They are not there to do what they are asked to do. When they get there, they are the actual principals. So what do you think they are doing in schools is the complete opposite. During the campaigns, we met them. During the back-to-school campaigns, we met them in schools. Where they get there, they sit in an office, they fill in a form, that 1 hour, 30 minutes form that you were filling. They fill in that form and they leave. They write in the logbook and they leave. But no one has a responsibility of monitoring progress. Those recommendations, there's no tracking of progress, nothing. And that is why even the smallest things of fixing a bulb will end up in Parliament. Because there's no one who has a responsibility to ensure that even the smallest things that must be taken care of to avoid us getting to a situation where we are. There's no one. But the department has a whole lot of people who would go and say, we went to a school, what are you doing in the school? They went to go and sign because you told them to go to schools and bring a report. So MEC, you must have a different way of doing things. I see here you say, now the school is going to be budgeted for infrastructural repairs for 2025-2026. So that should have been done. And that's why I'm saying we should not be a reactive structure where they say there's no water. And then 2 days before you come to Parliament, you open the tap. It's true, a lot of schools in Northwest have got the same situation. And sometimes you are caught between which one must be prioritized. And because today we're discussing Lirunzele said, tomorrow there's going to be another petition. So have a way, and the fact that you operate in silos creates frustrations in communities. And probably because the SGB had to bring it here because the parents are also saying, but what must happen? You rightfully said that we are a very rural province. You would find that 70%, 65% of the parents don't even work. Most of the time, the schools would be asked for donations. Some of the schools would go to an extent of even saying, learners ka January, they will not get reports. They will not be admitted in classrooms because they didn't pay the 350s. So there has to be an actual plan. If it is a government that is intentional about ensuring that learners get quality education and are capacitated. But the state of infrastructure generally of schools should be an item on its own. If Department of Education must sit with infrastructure department, public works, we must be discussing the state of infrastructure of schools, not who has a toilet and who doesn't. And that should have started there. In your strat plans, that's what you must suggest. Let's sit with Department of Infrastructure, look at the budgets that we have, look at our priorities if you have. If you don't, you have them there in that meeting. So that you are also able to see whether there's improvement or not. At this point, we're just reacting. We're reacting. If the power trips today, you go and switch on the board, and then that's fine. You think you're doing something. So it is really a crisis, but I am grateful that the SGB was brave enough to come here. Had it not written to Parliament, they would not be budgeted for this financial year, and they must be very proud of themselves. Because they would have been told it's not just Lirunte that has a problem. And I would like the MEC to give us time frames. Yes, they are going to be budgeted for. By when will these things be done? And by when, so that we know by when should we go and check if indeed these have been implemented. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, I won't go back to the greeting part. I think I've greeted. So, Chair, I think we have a serious problem. When I look all these two presentations that are here before us, Chair, as members of Parliament, more particularly members of the Portfolio Committee, our responsible is to do oversight and also make sure that we hold executive accountable. And in that process, as we do oversight, we must not just have this type of a meeting just to tick boxes that we have attended to the issue of the petitioners. You will recall when we started this meeting, I questioned on the procedure on how we are actually proceeding. Here before us, we're supposed to have the principal of the school, like the Deputy Minister said when she was speaking. We're supposed to have all the petitioners present here before us, not to these things of Zoom. Because the petitioners, when they were busy with their report, they are saying pictures, these pictures, that, but there were no indication of those pictures like the department when they were doing their presentation. And above all, Chair, the members of Portfolio Committee, both Public Works and the Basic Education, we should have done at least a physical oversight visit to this particular school before we call ourselves and come here and sit, because we are coming here to speak of two people who are speaking against each other. And until now we can't say anything because we have never done that oversight visit. We don't know the corner which the petitioners they are actually speaking about to say is correct. Maybe the part that the department is showing us is the one that is favors them, like what Honorable Komana said. But there's another part which the SGB is referring to. And the Portfolio Committee is here. You want to listen to those people. Listen to those people on what? Because you don't know this school. You have never been to this school. Why are you calling these people to come here? To come and listen. And then you tick box that, yeah, we have attended the matter of, what is the name of this school? It's so, Lerunte Secondary School. It's not assisting us. I'm not sure now, Chair, what should we say here? Because we've got two people who are speaking against each other here. This one says they are cracks. This one says you are lying. There's no cracks. It's a joint. We're joining. That is why there's. So who must we believe now if we have never done our oversight? So next time, when we want to attend to this type of issues, we must take ourselves serious as the committee. We must go to that school ourselves and satisfy ourselves with facts so that when we call them, they come here, we've got facts. We don't listen to these gossips that are going on here. It's gossips. And the next thing, we are going to overrule the cries of the SGB only to find out that the SGB is correct. Or you rule against the department only to find that the department is correct. So it's us, the Portfolio Committee, who have never done our work. Because we don't know what is happening then. So I want to really engage these things. I want to really engage these things, but it becomes difficult. Because I don't know from which point are we engaging these things? But also, Deputy Minister, we've got a serious crisis in South Africa. Most of our schools in South Africa are not in good conditions. And it is good because we've got the public works with us here, even though the Deputy Minister ran. We do have the Department of Basic Education here. January, when schools were reopening, I said these things in our previous meeting. We visited schools. Physically, we saw these things happening there. And when I get to see this petition coming from the SGB, I relate to some of the schools that were visited to say, indeed, it might be true. Because we have visited schools and we have found cracks in these buildings that we are having there. We have found serious problems in terms of their toilets there. Our schools do not have water. There are no proper roads going towards the school itself. It's a mess. So, Deputy Minister, you are here as a minister because Minister, she's not in our presence. I repeat, I say let's go back to our schools as the department, as the portfolio chair, because these schools need us there. I spoke about a school in Limpopo, Muime Primary School. That school, I even have pictures. There are cracks everywhere. Those kids are attending in a school where there's serious cracks. Anytime the building can collapse. And when I look at the history of the school was built in 1953 with no maintenance. And now what I'm getting here is that the department will send their inspectors, they go and inspect, like the report we are receiving here, to say those are minor maintenance issues. And minor maintenance issues are supposed to be dealt or attended to by the SGB or the school itself.
Komani.
Ha ke menele tshwete ke teketse mongaka modula setulo go leboge ke be ke tšee sebaka se go tamisha Deputy Minister le MEC tše di lego mo le bao di official di lego gona ke se ke ka lebala mongwaledi wa rena le bamphato ka thoko le bona ke a batamisha ke tamišile baetapele ba ka ba lego mo gaufi le rena sa mathomo a ke thome ka go leboga di presentation ka moka go tšwa go balli ke be ke fetišetše go collective report ye e tšwa go Department of Public Works le Department of Education. Re leboga nako ya lena le itšere go letsetsotsoropa bakoni motho o rialo jalo ga re laetse gore re swanetše go reta re leboge go ba le di SGB tša go swana le tše di fetilego. I wish it should have be like that the whole country. Somebody somewhere a ka nagana gore di SGB tše ga di nape di na le tsebo e itšego, but the fact remain go gore they are very brave to stand up and say their concern. Then go tle mahlong a rena re re e tloga e laetša e ditshepedišo e rutlago mabapi le gore seswana se a bolela se re molato wa tšhemong o sekelwa mollwaneng ena o seka ke basenyi le beng ba tšhemo go te khwetša go se go ba gwa hlapa mahlong gore re dule ka fa ka balli gomme balli ba seke ba gona le ba fege lefateng kwa mo e lego gore we need their presence here. They should have formed part of us here. And even now, the department have a portfolio of evidence. But because some have been sabotaged not to form part of this city, we can't be able to see their portfolio of evidence. We are not sure if the Department of Education have just made a choice of their choices to go to where maybe it can represent them. They took pictures there. It is not complete. And now we're gonna not say it is. We say it is not complete. Then lefapeng la go leboga SGB ke laetse gore ba berekile ka gore the department on the other level is self-exposed ka lebaka la gore go laetša gabotse gore they only believe in a theory measures when they took our SGB, introduced them to workshops. They don't come back to make sure if these people have really understood of what have to be done. They just take them and then did the water of workshops, then they leave it like that, and then iba selomoliro. Re thoma go lemoga gore re a re reša ga re lenaneo la tshepedišo ya thuto ya gabo rena le te tshamme ka theory ena ga lena supervision mo go laetša lešoba la go tswa ka gare ga Department of Education gore ga go na le di-element tše di laetšago gore they don't care ena go laetša gabotse gore dikolo tše ntšhi tše di nago le mathata a go feta sekolo se sa le re ke sepuputlana ba re ke mang le runtse ke mathata a e le gore a aparetše dikolo ka bontšhi mo e le gore go laetša gore go na le bothata jo le gore bo ka ba bo le gona o lebelele ka mokgwa e le gore tshepedišo ya structure e ba ka gona lenaneo la gore gona jo le re tetemogele gore le complaina ka gore committee ga e felele seo se re laetša gore go na le something ka mogare ena ga se ra ba ra kgona gore re ka fitlhelela go tseba gore why the secretary a resign